A new report out this morning says taxes are the biggest expense for Canadian families. The Fraser Institute report points out that the average family in Canada spent about $48,000 in total taxes last year. The report also says Canadian families spent more on taxes than on housing, food, and clothing combined. It says taxes have grown faster than any other expenditure for an average Canadian family, going up by more than 2,700% since 1961. CTV's Scott Hurst is following this story for us today. Good morning, Scott. Tell us more about these numbers.
Good morning, Renee. This is incredibly concerning at a time where so many Canadians are forced to pinch their pennies. The cost of living top of mind, affordability crisis top of mind, and taxes, as this report points out, are the single largest household expenditure. And as you said, the tax bill has grown more rapidly than any other single household expenditure, unlike luxury items or even just basic necessities that many are still being forced to skimp on. You basically cannot miss out on taxes. And according to the Fraser Institute, the average Canadian family spent a whopping 42% of their income on taxes in 2024, more than on housing, food, and clothing combined. In 2024, the average Canadian family with an income of nearly $115,000 paid more than $48,000 in total taxes. That includes, so we say total taxes, income tax, payroll, health taxes, sales taxes, taxes on liquor, tobacco, fuel, carbon taxes, etc. Putting all the different federal, provincial, municipal levies together, the total tax bill increased a staggering more than 2,700% since the first year of this report, 1961. So, Renee, as I mentioned, incredibly concerning for families at a time when affordability is so significant on our minds. Cost of living top of mind when we're going to the grocery store and seeing what we can and cannot afford in terms of rent or mortgages, what we can and cannot afford. And so seeing this in stark numbers is incredibly concerning for Canadian families.
So, Scott, where do we go from here with this information? Is this going to be putting pressure on the government to take action?
Well, ultimately, the report just points out it's up to Canadians themselves to decide whether or not they get good value for their tax dollars. So it's ultimately just a good gauge to know how much of your money, in fact, goes to taxes. So the reasoning behind this, according to the Fraser Institute, ultimately a sizable increase in incomes, even with no changes in tax rates. A family's tax bill would have still increased substantially over this time. But also, the average family faced a tax rate increase from 33.5% in 1961 to more than 42% in 2024. So, as I mentioned, this is good information for Canadians to have when they're seeing their own specific budgets. But ultimately, it's up to Canadians themselves to decide whether or not they feel they get good value for the taxes they pay, Renee.
All right. CTV's Scott Hurst reporting for us. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Renee.